As an attorney, one of the questions I get all the time is there any way to avoid repaying student loans? Now, there's a really high bar that you can potentially hurdle within the bankruptcy setting. And I'm going to do a separate discussion around that because the case law is somewhat complex, but there is a way to do it through bankruptcy. So to hear that it's completely non-dischargeable in bankruptcy is not true, but it's very difficult. However, there are 10 legit ways to avoid repaying student loans without having to go through bankruptcy. So we're going to dive into those 10 today. And you might not like the answers you hear, but the reality of it is, as long as the federal government is backing student loans, it's going to be difficult to get those unpaid unless you do something to get them relieved or forgiven. Student loan debt is one of the biggest burdens on folks of my generation and those that are younger than me. And a lot of us have had, years worth of, between 10 and 20 years worth of repayment. There's a lot of ways, however, to overcome getting into student loan debt and to get out of student loan debt. So the first one, and the one that I utilize personally to avoid student loan debt, was to join the military. If you serve Uncle Sam, you can eliminate up to 100% of your student loans. I was an ROTC scholarship recipient and got my education paid that way. But even if you didn't go through that process, you can get a forgiveness for your federal student loans for either service that you've performed or will perform as part of the GI Bill plan or some other student loan forgiveness plans. And so you can talk to a recruiter and see what programs are out there for you based upon the education you have and the education you're looking to get. The military is a great option. You'll hear pros and cons, and there's certainly plenty of both. But for a subset of the population, it's a great choice. The next one, and many of the ones that are going to follow, are thematically giving back. The federal government has made a incentive to get education and then give back to the community in areas where there's a real need and a shortage of professionals. So the next one, number 2, is become a nurse. Due to the real shortage of nurses, there's a demand for more nurses, and they're eligible to receive 100% forgiveness of your Federal Perkins student loans. Nurses also get paid pretty well, especially if you're working for state hospitals or governmental agencies. So it's not a bad profession to get yourself into. And it also, in many states, only requires 2 years worth of higher education beyond high school to become an RN. And then you can continue through to progress to your BSN, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and MSN, Master's of Science in Nursing. But you can generally become an RN with only a 2-year degree. The third way is to work with folks who are disabled. Many organizations offer a student loan forgiveness program. If you provide early intervention with the severely disabled, you can qualify for up to 100% forgiveness of your Federal Perkins Loans, and that can go a long way to being able to relieve that burden. Number 4, become a faculty member at a tribal university. The federal government has labeled a few colleges and universities as tribal schools, meaning that they work predominantly with Native American nations in order to be able to provide Native Americans and Alaska Natives with higher education. If you teach at one of those schools, you can have up to 100% of your Perkins loans forgiven. Number 5, join the Peace Corps as a volunteer. You can have a great experience in a new country. I've known folks who have done Peace Corps work. They really enjoyed it. They tell stories years later about the times that they spent in the Dominican Republic or in Africa. You can meet a lot of new people. You can help folks, and then you can reduce your student debt at the same time. You can earn forgiveness of up to 70% of your Perkins loans by doing a Peace Corps tour. You can also work with number 6, AmeriCorps Vista. It's similar to the Peace Corps, but it serves challenged areas here in the United States. So if you're uncomfortable going to the Dominican Republic or Haiti or Central America or Africa, you might want to consider looking at AmeriCorps and serve right here in the United States. There's a lot of communities that can really utilize your help. Again, that loan forgiveness is going to be up to about 70%. And while it might not sound as exotic as a Peace Corps, and it certainly isn't as exotic, you can stay close to home and really contribute to communities that need you. Number 7, be a teacher. There's a lot of places in the United States that are desperate for teachers. Most of those areas serve lower income neighborhoods. If you teach for 5 years, you can eliminate up to $17,500 worth of federal Stafford loans. And there's been a lot of work in the last 10 years or so to get teacher salaries up to something that's approaching reasonable for the education level. So it is a good option for you to be able to teach and give back to the communities, and be able to get paid fairly decently and also get a big chunk of those student loans taken care of. The next one is to become a paraeducator or a university educator. And that program is much larger than that, aimed solely for teachers, and it'll forgive up to 100% of your student loans, your Perkins loans. And it allows you to do things like speech pathology, school librarian, staff member at a pre-K, or a teacher, or even in some cases a university professor. Other professions can also qualify. Depending on a position, you may have to work for a certain number of years or have an advanced degree in order to qualify and apply to the Department of Education for loan forgiveness, but it's available to you. Number 9, become a firefighter. If you've considered becoming a firefighter, there's good news. You could receive up to 100% forgiveness of your Perkins loans after serving for just a few years as a firefighter. Number 10 would be the same thing for a police or corrections officer. The firefighter plan also applies to police officers and corrections officers. The communities today, more than ever, can utilize good, compassionate, caring, community-based police officers. This is a great opportunity to be able, again, to give back to your community. Many career options are going to offer potential partial or complete student loan forgiveness. The umbrella for many of those items is known as the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So the PSLF program forgives the remaining balance on your direct loans after you've made 120 qualifying payments under the originally scheduled repayment plan while working full-time for a qualifying employer. So if you've stretched out those loans for that 20 years and you've made 10 years worth of loans and you're already down the road, you may be able to do a little bit of a career switch, go to a PSLF qualified employer and get the remainder of your student loans forgiven. Any loan received under the William Ford Direct Loan Program qualifies for PSLF. Loans that are not in those federal student loan programs, so private loans, don't qualify for PSLF, and neither do the Federal Family Education Loan, FFEL, and the Perkins Loan Program don't qualify for PSLF. However, they may become eligible if you consolidate them into a direct consolidation loan first, and then, or if you've already consolidated those, and then you go into PSLF. So there's a couple steps you can take if you're thinking about making that move, to first consolidate and get out of your FFEL or Perkins loans, and then go ahead and run those up through PSLF as a consolidated loan. There's a common theme to all these programs. You got to be providing an important service to those in need, and generally it's going to depend on that education that you got in order to be able to provide that service. You can gain valuable experience, enjoy the knowledge that you're helping to improve the lives of others while you get rid of your student loans and set yourself up to drive for FI. Until next time.